Maise, the Yordus Kenim Mirushalayim Laorehem. On their way back from Yerushalayim to their cities, the Pashtas, Skeni means the Sanhedrin, because they are the ones that could institute a fasting. And they saw something terrible happen. The size of Pitanur, of the opening of an oven, so that was a makeh, a plague, something terrible happened, was a blast. Shidofin, it was a blast in, so that's a tzorah. That leads to a famine. So they made a taanis, a fasting. The question was, Kimloi tanur, the size of to fill up an oven, of what? Could be tvua of grain, or dilma maybe kimloi tanur, to fill up an oven with bread. Rashi says, if it's the amount of filling up an oven with grain is a smaller shear than pas. Because when you put pas, it's not like today. Their baking was today, everything's on shelves. They would put the pas would stick to the walls of the town. But mainly in, there's a space. Grain takes up the whole oven, but pas doesn't take up the whole oven. Something more Toshma, come, I'll bring you a line. Because we learned in Abraise, or in the, if you're Medayek, the Mishnah, Kimloi Pi Tanur. It says what? Fills up the opening of an oven. Kimloi, from these words, Kimloi Pi Tanur, Pi, the opening of a tanur, tells you that it wasn't the whole oven full. There was still left an opening. What does that mean? That proves you that it's talking about bread. That's the smaller shear. Still, I'm not clear, because there's room to ask, does it mean kekisuya the tanura? Does it mean like the cover on top of the oven? Or idilmo, or maybe what it means, kidoro the rifte, the hoder puma the tanur. All it means like rows of bread, which goes in the oven table. We don't have an answer to this question. But the story is, we see from here that the Chachomim would make a taanis when they were Chalila worried that this will lead to a famine. Then the Mishnah said, "V'oid gozru taanis." That's quotation from the Mishnah. Al she'ochlu ze'evim. Wolves in the middle of the day. Ochlu ze'evim. That they ate up 2 children. It's a terrible thing. Omar Ule Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yitzadok. Maise Ubolu Ze'evim Shnei Tenoikes. That's happened. That the wolves swallowed 2 children. Vehekiyum, it came out of them through the back. Ubo Maise Ifnei Chachom. The story came after the Chachomim, and they said such a halacha. The bodies, the tiharus habosar, the bodies, the flesh, does not make tummy. Why? Because the flesh was already digested in the wolves. The wolves are alive. The children were. But esoatzomes, the bones. The bones don't get digested, so the bones were separate. So halachically, for tumor, we deal with them separately, and they are metame. Something that's lost is not metame, but something that exists is tumor. What happened over here is that a chayil, an animal, ate flesh of a human being. Then the Mishnah says, Al Elu Masriyim B'Shabbos. These are things that we will show you for some say no, even though the word Masriyim means blowing shofar, but it's lavdavke, it just means we daven to Hashem. Ir, a city, shehekifu hanocher, that the goyim surrounded it, oinor, it's surrounded by a river, and that could be a flood, or sfine hamtorefes beyam. A boat is it's ready to drown, so you have to do something about it. So you daven to make a tumult. The echod yochit, an individual, shenirdof is being harassed, goyim are running after him, or mipnelistim, gazlonim, people who just are murderers. Umipnei ruach ro, a bad spirit came into him, came a little bit mishuga, and now we are worried if the person is running and is out of control, he might end up just going to the river also, who knows? Or he could just fall because he doesn't know what's doing with it. It's for such tragedies, al kulon yochid reshaye, he's permitted lesage besatzwe, to torture himself with Taanis. Now, a Yid can't just do sigufim, bring afflictions on him, and I'll tell the emphasis in the Geras HaTshuva, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings on you Yisurim, that's a level. But you can't do it to yourself. So therefore, the Moret and the Mishnah tell me for such things that we mentioned, it's very serious, and we are allowed to make afflictions to ourselves. The reason to be mevatel, to destroy it, it's a gzeira, it's a terrible decree. Rabbi Yosef ein hayochid, an individual, is not permitted to torture himself with a fasting. Because what's going to happen? Shemo yitztarech labriyas, he will need parnosa, because he will be too weak to work. Ein habriyas marach misolf, and the people won't have compassion on him. So that's a terrible thing. So with his actions, with his behavior, he's causing problems. Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rav. My time with the Rabbi Yossi. What is the source of Rabbi Yossi? Because it says in Pasuk, when Hashem created man, by he ha'odom lenefesh chaya. Nefesh chaya means a living nefesh. Neshama shenasati b'cho, I gave you a neshama, hachayeho, you are responsible. You are you have to be concerned that your guf and your neshama should be alive. Here we learn that a person is that Alter Rebbe is explaining why a person is not allowed to torture himself, because he doesn't own his body. That's Alter Rebbe's husband. I'll borrow you. You give me your car. Yeah, you're away to Miami for a week. You use my car. I have no right to cut the seats because it's on loan. I could use it, driving it, go shopping, put bags, boxes. but I can't destroy it. So the same thing, our Rebbe explains, the goof, the body, belongs to Hashem. We could use it, but not destroy it. Can't say it's my body, I could do with it whatever I want. So now he says, I'm giving you a neshama, that means you should have a living goof. So the Mishnah, I quote, Shimon Ataimoni Eimer back in the Mishnah, Afal Hadever. When there was a plague, you could, if you see there's a plague, you could also be goizer at Taanis. Now, it's talking about Shabbos. So it says the Chachomim did not agree with Shimon Atemoni. There's two ways of learning it. The Chachomim didn't agree with Shimon Atemoni if it is because it's Shabbos, they felt you can't do this on Shabbos. There's no Taanis for a dever on Shabbos, but during the week, yeah. Oi, Dilmo, Loi Hoida Lechla. The Bichlal didn't agree with Shimon Atemoni that you should make a fast day for a dever if people die. So, Toshma, the Tanya we learned, Asriin al hadeber b'Shabbos, when tzorich leiman needs to say b'choil, that during the week. Akiva, in the name of Rabbi Akiva Omer, ein masriin al hadeber kol iker. No, if it's just people dying, you don't make a Taanis. Now, our Mishnah seems goes on the opinion that we don't make a Taanis for a dever. But there's a question. Many times we learn that we do have a Taanis for people dying. The answer is we're talking about people from another city. The people in the city where the dever is, where people are dying. We make the Meforshim commentaries answer where it says so many times in the Gemara that people are dying, you do make a Taanis, means in your city. What it says of the Gemara here, that for people dying, you don't make a Taanis, means people from the other city. There are certain things that we learned in the Shiurim, let's say if it's a famine, as it could spread. So everybody, cities around also have to fast. So that's the difference over here, that if there is a plague, you only make a Taanis, the people in the city. Any problems that we see coming up for the community, we make Taanis. If there's a lot of rain, too much rain, we don't make Taanis. My time. Omar Rabbi Chaikin, if it's too good, it's more than you need to, no. For that, you don't fast. You have less what you need, but if you have more than you need, no, you don't fast. Minhayin. From where do you know that? Amra Bechman. But you don't daven if you have too much goods. It says apostle. You should bring a skol ha-meiser, all the meiser that you have to give. You should make sure you bring it to the storage place. And Hashem says, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven, I'll give you blessings, a famous song, Ad bli dai. It will be so much, so we have to be darshan, he darshans. Your mouths will be so much, your mouth will use the lips, they will become, your lips will be tired of saying, die, enough. Enough. So what do we see from here? Even though there is so much, that your lips will have a problems saying so many times that it's more than enough, but we accept it. We don't complain. Omar Romi Barav Yud. Ubagoilo in Chutz Loretz, yeah, Master, you know well. We do daven to Hashem and saying it in Eretz Yisrael. If it's a lot of rain, whatever it is, we accept it. But the Chutz Loretz, because in Eretz Yisrael, even if there's going to be a lot of rain, it's fine. But the Chutz Loretz, if it's going to be a lot of rain, that could bring them into danger. So make Sachelo. Taanis Amahocha, Shono Ayir, Shek Shomeho Merubim, a lot of rain. Anshe Mishmar Shelchim send La Anshe Maim. Anshe Mishmar is that those people who the Levim, the Koyanim, who would have their duties in the Beis Hamikdash. Anshe Maimed would mean the groups of people that would represent the Yidden and go into the shuls and daven. In Eretz Yisrael, they would say to them, "Tenu einechem, put your eyes be'achechem shebegoylo, your brothers in Golis, shelayehei boteihem kivreihem." Their homes should not be their graves because it will be so much rain. Never there will be floods. Shoalos Rebbe Lezer. They asked him, "Ad heicham shamim yoda." What is the amount that the rain comes down? And we should daven shelo yeda. What's the shir? How much is called too much rain? Omar lehem, kedei sheyamed odom. When a person will stand bekeren oifel, that's a high place. V'yishach sheikh raglov b'mayim, and his feet will be in water. Frag the Gemara about Tanya Yodov, who learned his hands, that the water has reached till his hand. So was the shear. And for the Gemara, Raglov ki Yodov koamine. What it means is that he's able to put his hands in water just like he puts his feet in water. So that's the shear. If the rain reaches till his hands, that's too much rain. Omar Rabbi Bar Chana, the Chazili, I saw that place, that example, that moshel that you gave, Keren Ofel, it was a mountain made like a bone, which means it's a very, not a mountain out of earth, it's a mountain out of bone, a tall mountain. I saw it. Rabbi Bar Chana in Gemara, Alorim Baba Basra, had a relationship with an Arab, and he showed him moirendike things, unusual, very strange combinations. So he says, this Arab, Kirochiv Gamle, he was riding on a camel, the Nokid Rumche Biyode, he was holding a spear in his hand. And what did it look to me? Mischazi, it looked inicho, like a worm. What's the message over here? It was so high, the Keren Offel was such a high place, but if you look down on this camel and the Arab and it looked like a very small thing. So that it's important to us is that we're talking about a very high place, and there was so much rain that Yodov Barach. So that's the sheer, what's called Roiv Kshovim. It's a very tall place. So in Eretz Yisrael, you're not mispalel if it's too much rain, because the homes are built with stone, so we're not afraid. But in those places where the homes are not made out of stone, thereafter we see that we are concerned that this could lead to a flood. It's a sakone, because the homes might go.
They might fall.
Then become to nothing.
Why should someone think about fasting if there's too much? I understand if there's not enough, but why? What's the concept if there's too much that you maybe should fast?
Yeah, first of all, as I say, there's an old Yiddish saying, things are good, but if it's too much, it's not good. Wine is very good. Too much wine, what will happen?
How about too much grain?
Okay. Too much wine, what
you can
sweet,
too much.
Sugar is very good. But too much sugar, what would be?
Okay, yeah.
So all these, aspirin is good. Today we don't take aspirin, so we take Tylenols. A person will take you a whole bottle of Tylenols, what will happen? So everything that's too much, wait. Why? Because I wouldn't see this. The combination is oirois bekelim. But if it's too much oirois, there's no kelim. Is kelim, what will happen to the kelim? Shviras kelim. The same thing is, if you're not a keli for the sroif toivo.
So how about this? Would this not be in the category of too much? You have a lot more than you need, but you can sell it to the close city next to you. And then it's not too much?
No, then it's not too much. Because you just said it, you're sharing it.
And one more question. We know in the Mishnah is short, and you don't know exactly what it means. You have the Gemara to go through the arguments and figure out what is the Mishnah teaching you. But the question is, then why is the Gemara also like that? In other words, your example about the city, if it's your own city, you would have to fast.
Yeah.
But if it's another city, you don't. So it uses the term ir or whatever the word. So why didn't it say in the Gemara, ir acher, ir merachok, a much further city or something? Why is it the Mishnah already is concealed? Why also the Gemara should be concealed?
So you're asking, let's repeat your question. You're asking, why is it left in Gemara things that are not clarified?
Yeah, the Mishnah is already like that.
Yeah. The Mishnah is the short.
Yeah.
But you're asking, the Gemara is the already elaborating words from the Mishnah. So why are there things left?
Half of it is concealed.
Several things. One thing is yogaito umatzosa. You could only be a keli to understand Torah only if you gear, if you toil. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the benefit to have Yegiye in Torah. Im bechukoi sai teleichu, what does Rashi say? Shetiyu amelim b'Torah. This is a Yiddish Zach. A Yiddish Zach is that a Yid is supposed to toil in Torah. Heavier, review, learn more, things I'm not understand. Show a little bit bittul and strain and atzumoyen. You have to express a thirst for Torah. That's eins. Another thing is, Torah is revelations. It's pnimius, it's secrets, it's revelations. They should reveal the Torah for you. You've got to do something. You learn Chassidus so many times, 2 words, isaruso diltato. Hashem could give you. Hashem needs your isarusa del tata, and then we need that. In order that we should be zoiche, we should be married to isarusa del eile, we have to put in a little bit. Famous story over and over again. Rabbi Hanina ben Doise was bringing the stone to Yerushalayim. He couldn't do it himself. He needed help. He got 5 helpers. He came to Yerushalayim. The helpers dropped the stone. He wants to take the stone to the Beis HaMikdash, but he wants to pay them. They're not here. Didn't know what to do. He went to the Beis Din. Beis Din said that were angels, not to pay them. But there's another detail in that story, that those angels told him, put your fingers to the stone. The question is, if it's human beings, every little bit counts. But if it's angels, why did they need his fingers? They could take care of it without his fingers, because we have got to put our input. You know, the previous Deiris would say, when they would learn the Gemara, would say, Zog the Heilige the Gemara, Zog the Heilige Teure. Also ich habe some years, you're older, say the älter, say the Techa gelernt, Zog the Heilige Teure, Zog der Heilige Taanis. Right? Amol Rabbi Dreisen van Brinkman, als hij told us, ik forgot the name, als der Chossid gesessen, je sehen, wie hij lernt, en dat hij lernt, de Gemara zegt, the later Reb Shimon. No, Reb Shimon says an opinion, the Gemara says, the later Reb Shimon. And that Yid was going over, Reb Shimon is nicht gerecht, Reb Shimon is not right, and der Chossid couldn't take it. Neile, the Gemara sagt, the later Reb Shimon. Of there bist du zu sagen, Reb Shimon is not right, Reb Shimon bothered him. So that man, so it's nicht, the Gemara is nicht nur Stammseichel. Jede Sache, jeder Wort von Teire is revelations. Is da a limit, wie viel we can geben, und wie viel we have to machen an investment.